Welcome back. My name is Hidden Light. We gotta keep that. Welcome back. My name is Matt. This is Hidden Light. Man, that's cool. And today I want to talk about the process of marking up prints and why it's fun to do and you should try it, and also what the masters do when they do it. So let's jump in. Okay, so Magnum, the same people that released the contact sheet book that I don't own yet, but I really want to own, they've released, I think, 5 images that they're calling darkroom prints. And basically they're regular prints that show the process that goes into, like, the darkroom notes that go into making these as silver gelatin prints. So they're marked up. They look frickin' ruined / amazing, depending on how you feel about a perfect print. I love them. I think they look really good. This is something that we do here in our darkroom, and I figured I would just I have a couple of prints sitting around, and usually you do this for silver gelatin prints, but actually the process applies across printmaking. Anywhere you want to dodge, burn, increase contrast, remove something, like, the same thing applies. And most people won't bother doing this on an inkjet because it feels like an extra step, right? You could take here's my pisography print, and instead of marking it up by hand, I could just go into Photoshop and do all the work that way. But it's also kind of cool to show and to remind yourself and to live with the print what you need to do to it. So we'll have a link to the place where you can buy these Magnum prints. They're really cool. I haven't even looked at the price yet. Doesn't really matter because they're so cool. I probably won't buy any because I can just do the same thing to my own prints here, but I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about getting one. Not sponsored, not affiliated, just it's freaking cool. So here's kind of what I would do with a couple of prints that I've got sitting around that you can just mark up, and maybe they look like total dog shit, and maybe they'll look cool. There's no way to know, really. So I have and trusty Sharpie, not sponsored, and so I'm gonna just kind of cruise through this image and we'll see what we can see. Dodgy burnies, you know what I mean? That's what I would do. Like, when I reprint this, I want this area. Ooh, that's a terrible Sharpie. I want this area. Ooh, that's even worse. Fuck! That's funny. Okay, so I want this area here. I want it lighter. Wow, what Sharpie does to pisography prints. Okay, normal paper, good. And then as soon as I get into the image area, less good. So we'll not do this one. Let's do some silvers. See how glossy these are. They're not terrible. They're not great. So, okay, obviously I have a lot of cleanup to do here, but I would do some burnies. You know, we could burn some of these deep shadows down. We might even, just to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle, burn some of this down. Give ourselves almost kind of a vignette a little bit. And see how that feels. Maybe this whole section here. But then I want to see more of this. I want to see a little bit more shape, you know? So you might do something like this. Subtract a little bit from that. We might give ourselves a little bit more there. You can see that just a couple of quick changes that you might usually make, aside from cleaning the negatives, because oh my god, these are filthy. We might actually increase this burn all through here. It starts to look like you're really doing a lot of work to the print, when really okay, vignette, that goes pretty easy. You know, dodge a couple of spots during the base exposure, burn in a couple more. It doesn't have to be that crazy and difficult. We might add a little more shadow here. You know, something like that. And it starts to look like something that's actually, I don't know, interesting by the time you get through with it. Granted that this is not a very interesting image to start with, but upside down grapes. You know, like this. The brightest part of the image, we don't need that. Let's just burn this whole thing. Burn. Burn it down, baby. You know, like this, I don't mind being a little light, but like this, we gotta add a little vignette in here. Get rid of the anti-vignette that I apparently have going on. And then we're gonna need more contrast in here, so something like, we may do like a slightly higher contrast. And then like a dodge in here. Something like that, you know? Like just give yourself a little bit of oomph. I like this sort of super out of focus background layer, so I'm not so worried about that. We may just do higher contrast all the way through the grapes, but this is like a soft edge that kind of leads you in, so I kind of like that. Maybe burn down some of this rope. When I made these prints, they were pretty much straight prints. Like, I didn't put a lot of effort into this series when I was printing in the darkroom. It was just like an excuse to print and have fun and do the thing. Wow. Yeah, like the flatter background is good, and maybe even here, and then a split contrast, punch it, and come in after this would be cool. I don't know. I think it looks neat. Maybe it's just me. Whoa, especially if this is going to hang next to this. Like really high contrast, really low contrast. You got to find somewhere in the middle. That's just redonkulous. I made these prints years ago. You know what I mean? Silver gelatins, it's easy to mark on. Apparently piezography, less so. How about inkjet? Let's try an inkjet. Here is, okay, I like the idea behind this image, but this whole shape up here has got to go way down. That needs to go to like here. You know what I mean? That needs to be a lot darker. The reflection is a little less phallic. So I'm less worried about this shape, but this shape looks terrible. So we got to do something about that. I think that by burning it in, I can force more of these like bokeh rings to show up and let it do its thing there. And then I want to brighten select areas on the beverage. Probably brighten some of this. You know what I mean? Just like let that do its thing a little bit. And when I'm doing this, plus for me, and I'm probably doing it wrong, plus for me means a burn, add time. Minus means subtract time or a dodge. So I want this area here to get lighter, this area to get lighter. The reflection, I think, can kind of mostly stay. Although I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of the actual drink on the table. Dodge that a little bit. And then I'll probably burn this down, not to match this, but to get kind of close. And then we might as well burn this so that it matches or comes closer to matching. You know what I mean? Looks like I got some schmutz on there, so I'm just gonna omit that. This looks like the top of the glass. I could probably do a little dodge down there. You know, something like that. Inkjet's easy. Silver prints, easy. Draw all over them, don't worry about it. I like the idea behind this image a lot. Kind of the same thing for this, you know, put them up on my bar, near my bar, with the bar, close to the bar. This has got to go way down. There's schmutz all over it. Some of it's just dust, you know, that's not a big deal. I'd like to see a little more shape in the glass. If you ever do this in the darkroom, you should join our Discord server and post photos of it because it's cool. Put those in the What We're Printing channel, you know, just for giggles. It'd be fun. What else would we do to this print, you know? I don't really want to draw attention to this down here, so I kind of want to leave that one alone. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know, this is kind of distracting. We might burn this down. I'm not always a vignette guy, but sometimes I am. We could get a little more contrast in here. Something like that. I don't know, get a little bit more snap, a little bit more oomph. You know? Of course, if these were darkroom times, I'd also like, okay, you know, so 45-second base. And then I'd be saying, okay, plus 45 seconds, right? Plus half a grade contrast, minus 10 seconds. You know, something like that. You'd actually give yourself notes so that you make a print and you decide what you have is good, and then you have the recipe for that print. You know, instead of like 2 cups of flour and 2 tablespoons of baking soda, it's like 45-second base, 100% burn up here, add a half a stop or a half a grade of contrast here, you know, subtract 10 seconds here, hold this 10 seconds, something like that. It's a recipe so that you can repeat the print in the future. And what you're buying from Magnum with their beautifulness shows the recipe for any given print, so that if you had access to the negative and a darkroom and the same paper that they were using, you could ostensibly make that print. Theoretically. I don't know. I think shit like this is cool. It's the kind of stuff that like is different and that we don't do anymore because you just have Photoshop or Lightroom, God forbid. Edits in Lightroom like this, where you're doing like the brush tool and the gradient tool, they're not as precise. They're not as good as Photoshop. I will die on that hill. Photoshop is better. But even better than Photoshop would be an actual fucking darkroom. You know what I mean? Actual darkroom would be cool. So, I've been thinking about, there are a couple of prints that I want to make like reasonable size from some of the 35mm that I've been shooting this year, which is hilarious because 35mm past like 20 by 24 inches is just a freaking nightmare. It just gets soft and sort of horrible. And doing the same thing from the film that I've been shooting, which is HP5 that I've pushed to 1600, is going to be even worse. It's going to get grainy like fast, but it'll be fun. So maybe we'll do that in a video if I can figure out a way to do good video in a dark room. We'll find out. Anyway, you know, I brought over a huge stack of prints. I don't know if any of these are ones I really want to fuck with, but you know, what would you do to this one? Think about this. Think about that bad boy. Would you maybe like dodge some of this so that it gets a little brighter? I don't know, man. Maybe minimize this a little bit. See if you could dodge that just a skosh. Maybe you hate the image and you wouldn't do anything to it at all. That's cool too. Anyway, link in the description to these really cool looking prints, because why not? And if they're semi-affordable, maybe I'll even buy one. Knowing Magnum, though, doubt it. Cool. We'll see you in the next one. All right, here we are, Magnum Photos. Let's see. Ooh, this one's got red in it. Shop now. It's not bad. What are they, though? Are they actually silver gelatins? Doesn't say. The prints sized 11 by 14 are a testimony, blah, 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 blah. These gotta be inkjets, right? Archival pigment print. So they're inkjets of scanned recipes of I assume silver gelatin prints. Hand stamped with a Magnum stamp on the back of the poster. Don't call it a poster, guys. It is printed on Hahnemühle fine art Baryta paper. So it's going to look like a silver gelatin to the best of their ability. 11 by 14 inches for $250. I kind of want one now.